Welcome again, and thanks for joining us as always. Um, Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Prabhupada Priya. Devi Dasi has been a full-time devotee in ISKCON since 1992. She was a Sankirtan leader for many years in the UK, and she is a certified Bhakti Shastri teacher, a Bhakti Vaibhava graduate, and is currently enrolled in the Bhaktivedanta course with VIHE, as well as the GBC College for Zonal Supervisor Training. After living and teaching in the holy dhams of Vrindavan and Mayapur for 20 years, she now resides at Krishna House in Gainesville, where she serves as educational director. She is author of Rising Above It All, Higher Consciousness, Happier Life, an introductory book aimed at outreach preaching. She is known for giving wonderful classes, which are both philosophically deep and personally relevant. Um, so thank you again, Prabhu, for joining us tonight. We're very pleased to have you, and it's all yours. Hare Krishna.
Right. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's an honor to be here tonight with all of you.
Maybe we could ask Mataji to say how she got started in Krishna consciousness and Krishna House.
In Krishna House, how I came to Krishna House or how I came to Krishna consciousness in the beginning?
Maybe just a little brief introduction of yourself before you launch into Krishna.
Okay. So I'll say a little bit about how I joined. It's a long story, but I'll make it very brief. So I had just graduated from college. I got a degree in human ecology from College of the Atlantic in Bar Harbor, Maine. And I had won a fellowship I had applied for and won this fellowship called the Watson Fellowship, which granted me a large amount of money for traveling around the world doing a research program of my own design. So the project was in the field of global climate change, which at that time was a very cutting edge field because this was like very early 90s and it was a new thing. So my idea was I had chalked out a whole plan of visiting different countries and different climates and studying the effects of changing atmosphere, changing amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere on plant growth. And so that was my thing. I was traveling. I visited maybe around 50 different countries. And it was when I was in Malaysia that I met the Hare Krishnas for the first time. And I got a Bhagavad Gita and I started attending a Namahata program there. So that was my first thing. And when before that, I had been a Christian and I was always like very interested in going deeper in spiritual life and getting closer to God. And I would read the Bible every evening and I was always praying, to please, God, let me get closer to you. I want to know more about you. I want to have, have a closer relationship with you. And I feel like those prayers are what led me to the devotees, because when I met the devotees, I was like, wow, these are people that really know about God. They know his names, his address, his phone number, what he looks like, what he does. And they had really clear descriptions of all the things that I wanted to know more about and lots of answers to questions about, just mysteries of the world and life and how things work. So it was very, very satisfying. And later, when I traveled on I was continuing my research and I ended up in London. And by Krishna's mercy, I went to the London temple and I met a devotee, whom many of you may know, His Holiness Keshava Bharati Maharaj. And I went to a questions and answers session where he asked me, what are your plans? And I said, well, I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita and I've been studying the Bible for many years. And I decided that I want to devote my life to serving God. And then he said, oh, you've come to the right place. So he invited me to stay in the ashram there and study Srimad Bhagavatam, and which I did. And there was really like no turning back after that. I felt like I had found the place where I was meant to be in this lifetime to progress on my journey. So I've been in Krishna consciousness ever since. And as you can from the introduction that Winston kindly gave, you can see that I really like to study and teach. I feel like that's sort of my little niche within Krishna consciousness is studying the scriptures and teaching the scriptures. And I'm educational director here at Krishna House, so I do a lot of teaching and mentoring kind of services. And yeah, so that's how I ended up here, is that I came here to Gainesville with my daughter in 2017. She had just gotten initiated and she wanted to study. So we came here to look into the University of Florida educational opportunities for her here. And we came to Krishna House. So at that time we saw that, wow, this is a great little project, it's very dynamic. There's young people, there's preaching, there's a lot of life, I thought this is a very nice place to be. And the short time that we were here, Kalakanta Prabhu, who was heading up the project, who really got things going very strongly here over the last, I think, 12 years since he came. He felt that that I was a perfect person to be at Krishna House. They needed someone to take care of the young ladies who are joining, and to help with teaching and training new devotees. So he invited me to come and do the service of being the ashram leader here for the women. And so I accepted that service and I came. And yeah, I've been here for 3 years now. It's been really nice. We've had a lot of new devotees joining and, becoming nice Vaishnavas and going on and doing important services locally and in other parts of the world. It's really inspiring to see. It's very one of the most inspiring things for me in my Krishna consciousness is seeing how new people come in with absolutely no knowledge of spiritual life. Maybe they have some vague ideas, and taking to the simple processes of bhakti, chanting the holy names and studying the scriptures and doing service and taking prasadam and becoming so steady, just really rising above the whole materialistic way of life and being able to let go of a lot of activities that were dragging them down and just really transform, externally and internally in such a short time. I'm always surprised. It's always astonishing to see the power of bhakti, this process of devotional service, to really transform people in such positive ways. So I feel very fortunate that I get a chance to witness that all the time. We're always having new people. We had a new boy move in yesterday, and then last week we had another new boy come, and it's just always getting new people. So Krishna keeps sending them. And that's kind of Kalakanta Prabhu's his theory is that if we create a space which is favorable for new people to grow in Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will send them. Because there are many souls out there who really want to live a genuine spiritual life and connect to God in a deep way. And this philosophy of Krishna consciousness is so attractive. And if we just open up, we create a space. Because when Kalakanta and his wife came to Gainesville, and when was it? 2012, I think. It was basically he, his wife, and there were a few, older devotees, and it was just them. There were maybe 5 of them, and they were doing their little morning program amongst themselves. They were going every day and distributing prasadam on the University of Florida campus, but nobody was really joining. And years were going by, and they were just doing that, distributing prasadam and trying, but nobody was joining. And then they had a couple of houses here that they were renting rooms to students, but it was just kind of like renting apartments, and students were still doing their own thing and they weren't joining. So then they're thinking, one day Kalakantru was reflecting and thinking, well, why is no one joining? And then he thought, well, if someone did join, what would we do? If someone stepped forward and said, I want to be a devotee, I want to be a part of this movement, he said, what would we do? We don't have any space for them. We rented out all the rooms to just random students. We don't have a person here to take care of them, like an ashram leader or a teacher to train them. And so we'd really be at a loss. And maybe that's why no one's joining. Maybe that's why Krishna is not sending sincere people to join this movement here. So then he said, okay, so let's make some adjustments. So he, when the students who are renting, when their lease is finished, he thought, okay, we'll keep a couple of apartments open and we'll get them all fixed up nicely for new people to come. And we'll get a suitable person to take care of such people if and when they do come. And we'll adjust our program so that it accommodates the needs of students who have their outside demands in terms of their academic things that they need to do in their studies, but still want to be devotees. So they adjusted the morning program to make it a little more like condensed, that Mangalarti is at 6 instead of being at 4:30, so that students that need to have classes in the evening and study a lot, they can still attend everything. So he made all these adjustments. And as soon as he did that, like almost immediately, like within a couple of weeks, a couple of devotees came, like really nice, sincere souls came and wanted to join, and they moved in, and then the ashram started. So he's very convinced that if you just create a space, you just, have the facility there, suitable facilities and the right people, then Krishna will send them. And so we just keep doing that, and Krishna just keeps sending people from all over America, and plus local students from Gainesville who are studying here at UF. So that's really the trick, like if you open the door, then people will come through. But if we don't have the facilities to accommodate people, then even if Krishna sends them, why would Krishna send them? Because we don't have a place for them. He's going to send them where they have a place. So that's one thing. That's how it got going. Then the question is, when you get people, then how do you keep them? How do you keep them inspired in Krishna consciousness, especially for Westerners? Because we're trying to expand our outreach to local people, because it seems like it's very easy for people who are of Indian origin to join, because it's very much, the Krishna conscious lifestyle and the principles are very similar to their own, lifestyle of the average person who's born in a Hindu family in India. So it's kind of similar. So it's very easy for them. But for Westerners, it's a complete, for many of them, it's a complete 180-degree turn in terms of, accepting the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. So then the way that we've tried to make it easier for Westerners to join, just average Americans to join, is by maintaining, upholding a certain set of values, which we call the Gita values, because they're all based on the Bhagavad Gita. So I thought I could run through these. There's 6 of them, and they're very important they've really been critical in the success of Krishna House as a preaching center. And we believe that any center that really deeply imbibes these values is going to be able to have a program that's very attractive to Westerners. So the first one is the Sanskrit, which we find in the Bhagavad Gita, is Samadarshina, which means equal vision. There's that verse that says that one who sees the soul in when he sees the external bodies of even animals, like an elephant, a dog, or a person who's a Brahmin, a very saintly person, or another person who's just kind of like a lower class person, but he doesn't see the body, he sees the soul, and therefore he sees them all equally. So the value here, the principle here is equal vision, seeing everybody equally. And so the way this manifests at Krishna House is that we basically we try to avoid hierarchies on any basis. So based on gender or age or um, uh, uh, the time that a person has even been a devotee. So we try to just value everybody equally, give equal value to every single devotee here, and welcome and respect everybody. So because one thing that Western people value is this concept of equality. And although it's very easy for like Indians, people of Indian origin, their hierarchy is very natural to them. You know, like young people will naturally respect older people. A junior person will naturally respect a senior person. But in America, it's not necessarily like that. You know, Americans tend to find it hard to accept a position of inferiority, even if it may be, you know, even if someone may be more learned, may be more experienced, maybe more mature, still it's difficult to kind of accept that and act according to, with that hierarchy being formalized. So what we've had success with is just sort of minimizing that as far as possible. So even Kalakanta Prabhu himself, although he's, you know, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and he's an initiating guru in ISKCON, but when he interacts with devotees, even the newest Bhakta or Bhaktin, he just interacts with them like a friend, and he gives just as much value to their uh, whatever they want to say, their contributions, their opinions, as another person's. And so everybody feels very much valued. And in this way, you get a family mood. So what we try to establish is a family mood. So in a family, uh, although the parents are older and they're wiser and they're more mature and they're more experienced and they're basically, you know, superior in every way to the children, but it's not that the children are less valued. In fact, it's the children are the most highly valued members of the family, and that the parents are serving the children, and they're, you know, making all kinds of adjustments in their lives in order to accommodate the needs of the children and facilitate the children in their growth, in their education. So we sort of turn the whole thing upside down here, where we make the newest members of the family, the newest people to join, the most important, you know, and that we orient the whole program to them and to their needs. And everybody becomes like a servant of the newest devotees. So that really helps, because when people first come to Krishna consciousness, uh, it's not always easy, you know. It's difficult because there's so many new concepts. There's just, it's a whole different life, you know. Even just the basic things about, you know, learning what to eat and what not to eat, and, you know, waking up early in the morning, and the standard of cleanliness. It's all just very new, and it can be very disorienting. So we really want to give new people a lot of attention, give them all the attention that they need, and support and encouragement, and make them feel like they're very valued, which they are. Because after all, as if we're a preaching center, that's what we're here for. We're just here for them. So when we have that attitude towards new people, then it helps them. It helps them immensely. And instead of stressing, you know, like, I'm the senior devotee, you need to respect me, you need to serve me. No, it's the other way around, is that I'm uh, I'm trying to help you to become strong in Krishna consciousness. I'm doing everything I can to make your stay here comfortable and fruitful for you, and to accommodate your needs, whatever, to understand you and to understand your needs so that I can help you. So that's something that's very refreshing. And it's actually been, my coming here has been actually a huge learning curve for me, because I lived in India for many years, and there it's very different in terms of, the younger people are very much expected to respect the older people, and I had to get used to a different way of interacting with juniors. So it's been nice. It's been really good. I feel like it's helped me also to realize that I'm just a servant. I'm the servant of the servant of the servants, and it's really happy just being a servant and not trying to be, the master. Yeah. So that's one thing. So that's Samadarshinaha, giving equal privilege to everybody. And another part of that is the gender issue. So in some temples, it can seem very patriarchal, in that men are given privileges that the women are not given, in terms of, giving most of the classes, holding most of the leadership positions, leading most of the kirtans. And, for example, when the ghee lamp comes off the altar, or the flower comes off the altar in the arti, it's passed around all the men first and then the women. So it's offered even to the newest bhakta before it's offered to the Srila Prabhupada disciple, who's a woman. And so we felt that is not according to the principle of Samadarshina. So what we do is we just go side to side, we just go across, we just work from front to back, going side to side, men and women. And whoever, the person who the ghee lamp is offered to first, is just the person who's just standing closest to it, And also when we recite the verse for Bhagavatam class, the way most temples do it is that the men will recite the verse, and then when the men are finished, then it'll be like, okay, Mataji's, women. But we just, whoever, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it can be, a woman can be the first person, like that. So because there's no reason for those things to be like that. Like, why does it have to be that it has to be a male, has to be the first person to recite the Bhagavatam verse? Anyone can recite it. So it's just little things like that make a big difference for Americans, because Americans are very sensitive about any kind of, sexism in any aspect of what we do. So, yeah, we've just made these little adjustments, and they've had big positive results. So this is Samadarshina. The next one is Icha, is the Sanskrit word, which means choice. So at Krishna House, we try to not pressure anybody to do to be here, basically. We just sort of like keep the door open. If they want, they can walk in. If they want, they can walk out. It's totally your choice whether you want to be a devotee or not. So we have a program that everybody who does live here needs to follow. So everyone has to come to Mangalarti and, chant japa and Guru Puja, Srimad Bhagavatam class, and do a certain number of hours, 4 hours of service. And so that's the program. If you want to live here, that's what you do. That's what we do here. And if you don't want to do that, then there's the door. We don't like pressure anybody to stay. So this is what we have to offer. And if you're interested, then, we're here for you. And so what we do is when people come, we don't give them the idea that, all right, now you signed up for the rest of your life, it's like, okay, do you want to come and stay one semester? So we sort of go, because our main preaching field is University of Florida, so our timing is in accordance with the university. So we'll generally try to get people to join at the beginning of the semester and say, all right, do you want to try it for 1 semester? And then, so that's like 2 or 3 months. Then at the end of that period, then of course, all the way through, there's, check-ins and stuff. It's every day being checked in on. But then at the end of the semester, it'll be like, okay, what do you think? Do you want to continue, or do you want to, try to see how you can apply these principles in your life in the outside world, or what? So we don't pressure people to stay. We just keep asking them, do you want to go for another semester? Do you want to continue here? What would you like to do? What is your vision for your own future in Krishna consciousness or otherwise? So when people are given the choice, then it's really nice, because it puts it, they can empower themselves through their own decision making, rather than making people feel like, that we're dependent on them, that we need them, that they're indispensable and you have to stay. Because it's not really like that. It really isn't. Krishna is taking care. He's making everything happen. And so we want people to be here who really want to be here. And they're not here because we've sort of, convinced them against their own interests to be here. So yeah, we find that when people are here by their own choice, then they're going to put their heart into it, because this is what they want to do. So that's something. And that's one of the, like in the Bhagavad Gita, we see that Krishna does that. He lays out the whole philosophy of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and then he says, all right, now you've heard everything. Now deliberate on this fully and do what you want to do. Decide what you want to do. So this is our program. This is our philosophy. These are our principles. Decide what you want to do. That's Krishna's approach. So then the third principle is ahimsa, which is non-violence. So as devotees, usually we apply this in terms of our diet, that we don't eat meat, because eating meat is a product of violence. So vegetarianism is a non-violent diet. But that also goes further. Ahimsa means to act in a way that causes the least harm to others, either physically, mentally, or emotionally. So yeah, at Krishna House, we really try to maintain this family mood, which is free from politics and envy, and really just like in the ways that I've already elaborated on quite a bit, is taking care of each person. And as soon as any kind of like internal politics arises, we really try to address it immediately, so that there's not people aren't hurt because of gossip or anything like that. If there's any conflicts between the residents here, then we try to take care of them and arrange mediation or whatever, so that everything remains peaceful and things go smoothly, and all the relationships are nice. There's a mood of like, just like in a family. So in a family, sometimes between the brothers and sisters, there's fighting. That's natural, right? But the parents always find a way to dissipate that. And at the end of the day, they all love and care for each other. So that's how we handle things here. Then the fourth value is acharya, which is teaching by example. So Krishna emphasizes this in the Bhagavad Gita, that he says that although he has no work to do within all the three worlds, but still he performs his prescribed duties just to set an example for others. So teaching by example is really the essence of education, because as social beings, people naturally adjust our behavior in order to have the sense of belonging. We all want to fit in. So often, we don't need to be told what to do. We just see what other people are doing. And because we want to belong to that group of people, then we'll just adjust ourselves to do the same thing. So then this makes teaching and training new devotees really easy, because if the older devotees, most of the devotees in the community are living a Krishna conscious lifestyle and attending the programs and, chanting nice, sitting there doing japa and chanting nicely and, just doing all the things that devotees should do, then we don't really need to instruct people. Because especially, I think this applies to most people, but especially Americans don't really like being told what to do. Because there's this idea of freedom and independence and individuality. So again, it comes down to also the Icha factor of choice. So for young Americans, it's good to just let them choose what they're going to do. And so if you just show them this is what we do, and if they want to be a part of it, if they've chosen to be a part of it, then they'll just do that. And then you don't need to tell them what to do. Because also for the leaders, like as I was ashram leader for a while, it's also hard for the leader. It's like the hardest part of the service is having to tell people, okay, don't do that. You need to do this, because we'd rather just, be loving and friendly and supportive and, have fun with new people than have to be telling them what to do and telling them what not to do. That's not supportive of a loving relationship, So if we can just show them what to do, and if we do it enthusiastically, and everyone's doing it together, and they can see that it's enjoyable, it's ecstatic, then they're going to want to be a part of it. So that's kind of the main mode of instruction. And then, of course, there's always going to be some little things that you do need to tell people, just to keep everything, everybody on the right path. But it becomes minimal when the emphasis is on teaching by example. And then that also keeps us in shape too, as the older devotees in the community, because the pressure is on us to set a good example, to always really try to be the kind of person that we would like them to be. And so we always need to be careful. So that's good. I feel like that has helped me a lot to be a good devotee. Fortunately, Krishna's always put me in situations where I've had to do that, because when I was living in Mayapur too, I was a teacher teaching high school students. And so, you can't tell teenagers much either. You just have to try to set a good example. And also for my own daughters, I have 2 daughters. I was always trying to set a good example. So yeah, I feel like that, that being in that position has been like super favorable for me. And I feel that it has helped others who have been in my care too. So then, and also along with teaching by example, the principle of Acharya is emphasizing Srila Prabhupada's position as the founder Acharya of ISKCON, that ultimately he's the example. He set the example for all devotees in ISKCON to follow. And so we're all aspiring to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and try to serve him so that we can imbibe his good qualities. Then the 5th one is amanitva, which is humility. So humility is not a weakness. Actually, humility is what nurtured Arjuna's self-esteem and self-confidence and courage in the Bhagavad Gita, because it was only when he was trying to, be the warrior and be the hero, that's when he was weak, right? When he was thinking, no, I need to protect the dynasty, I need to, do the right thing, that's when he was actually floundering and, dropping his Gandiva bow and, sitting down in his chariot. But when he took a humble position and surrendered to Krishna and agreed to become Krishna's instrument as a humble servant, that's when he was strong. That's when he actually was able to have the confidence and the courage to fight. So humility is really the jewel of the broad-minded devotee, and it opens the door to spiritual life, because it puts us in a position to actually receive instruction, to open our heart to the instructions and the examples of acharyas and senior devotees. And so here we try to emphasize humility through example, and how humility is a strength, and that humility goes beyond just like superficial obeisances or pranams, or displays of respect, because sometimes these external displays of respect can be just kind of fake, like externally you're like, oh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, but internally you have a totally different attitude. So we try to encourage devotees to show humility by serving each other quietly, without expecting any kind of recognition for that, with the goal of just making the other person happy. And yeah, so we put less give less importance to the external shows of humility, and more on the internal attitude of humility and how that manifests through service. And then the sixth one, so this is the last one, is priti, which is affection. Priti, Priti, affection. So we see in the Bhagavad Gita that it was out of love that Krishna very patiently shared knowledge with Arjuna. We see that if you read the Bhagavad Gita, you see that Krishna really, he gave a lot of time to Arjuna, and Arjuna was asking questions, and Krishna was very patiently answering those questions and giving long philosophical answers. And then Arjuna would have another question, and he would give a long philosophical answer, and then another question. So like that, Arjuna was asking the questions and listening out of love to Krishna's advice. And ultimately he chose to act, to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for Krishna's pleasure. So Krishna responded to Arjuna with love, and Arjuna responded to Krishna with love. So we can see there that the Bhagavad Gita is just, in one sense, a loving exchange between Krishna and Arjuna. And so the way that we deal with devotees also should be a loving exchange. We should see everything as a loving exchange, that devotees ask questions, other devotees are answering questions, devotees are serving each other and supporting each other, revealing their minds in confidence, inquiring confidentially. And this ability to give and receive affection enriches all the other values, all the previous 5 values that we've talked about. So it's very important for the leaders. We have a management team here at Krishna House, and it's something very much stressed that the managers need to really have this loving mood. When I was the ashram leader, temple president Shruti Sagar Prabhu would always come to me and said, just give them a lot of love, just be really loving with all of the girls in the ashram. So yeah, because actually as leaders of a spiritual organization, of a Krishna conscious center, we're acting as representatives of Krishna. And just as Krishna loves every soul, we also need to give. We also need to be conduits for Krishna's love. That as Krishna's love comes to us through the disciplic succession, and we need to pass that love on to others. Yeah. And that often requires, so love also entails being very tolerant. So that's a big thing, because when new people join, it's expected not always, it should be more expected, but it's generally, they make a lot of mistakes, right? Because like I said, because it is very new, it's a whole different lifestyle. And so if you all think back to when you were brand new in Krishna consciousness, for myself, I just felt like I was doing everything wrong. I just felt like everything that I said was inappropriate. I was always standing in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing. I couldn't even wear the clothes properly. My tilak was a mess. My sari was falling off. And yeah, I was always getting in trouble. So yeah, because it takes a while to, acclimate to the Krishna conscious culture. And so we have to be really tolerant. And this means not getting on people's case about every little thing, but just encouraging them and praising them for the good things that they do, rewarding the good, and then just letting the little things slide, So we don't force the issue about, what they wear, or, you know, little things. If they say something that's a little random or out of place, we just kind of like let it slide. It's like, don't sweat the small stuff, but just make sure that they're coming to Mangalarti, they're chanting their rounds, and they're doing their service, and just let the process work, because it's not it's not us telling them things that's really going to change their hearts. It's the process of bhakti that changes the heart. And when and through the practice of bhakti, then the lower modes, the modes of ignorance and the modes of passion, which are, pushing people to do the wrong things, those lower modes are cleared away gradually, and people come to the mode of goodness, and then they can understand what to do and what not to do. And then you don't need to tell them, because they can see. It's like the lights come on, it all becomes clear, and then they just naturally do the right thing. So we just need to be tolerant and very patient, and encourage them in the process. Let Krishna do his magic in cleaning the heart of the conditioned souls, and very, very quickly. Like I was saying, this transformation happens very quickly, and so soon everything will just fall into place. And it's very helpful to have that loving, patient, tolerant, encouraging mood with new devotees, especially young Western devotees. So those are the 6 basic Gita values that we follow here. I hope that I've been able to explain them clearly enough for your understanding. Of course, there's lots of further applications of those, and there's a lot of other things that I could talk about at Krishna House. But I guess at this point, if there are any questions or comments or reflections or extensions to any of the ideas that are presented here, then I would appreciate that.
I have a question. This is Krishna Kripa in Houston, even though it's tagged Winston Lynn. That's another story. How do you were talking about seeing everybody as not their body, but also mentioned the differences in gender perception and etc.
Yeah.
I joined the Bhakta boot camp back in my day.
Yeah. It was very different.
And there were some very, very powerful, strong, serious devotees, that surrounded all of us here in Houston.
Yeah. When was that? Which year?
Huh?
Which year was that? Oh, 1978, you said, right? Yeah.
Into 79 and like that. But so for me, I'm very acclimated to referring to women as Mataji. As I got older, I could not do that to the college kids that I'm preaching to. They look at you like you're nuts. I would call them Devi, or even the Indian girls that would come, the family, because I knew all their parents. We're just not on that level. But I mean, for me, to refer to a woman as Mataji is a big deal, because I really, really respected my mother. She was such an incredible person.
Uh-huh.
that I, at least for me, I could never look down to a woman just because she was a woman, as some people do in the earlier days, mostly.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that amongst the as the lady devotees, young lady devotees that are there, college age, start meeting some of the other devotees as they visit temples and etc. How do you integrate that older concept with the newer presentation, which is much better, I must admit.
Yeah. I mean, here at Krishna House, we don't really use Mataji at all because, yeah, Kalakanpu was saying that in the early days, everyone was Prabhu. And even Srila Prabhupada would call his female disciples Prabhu. So, yeah, that's part of the equal vision that, we just call everybody Prabhu. Prabhu means master, and we're the servants, and everybody is our master. We're the servants of the servants. So that, creates that view of, equality and places less emphasis on sort of the, gender distinguishing between genders and, more emphasis on the spiritual relationship of everybody. Generally, we just kind of say that, when we, for new people, we don't, we generally address each other by name, If you want to be really respectful, then you can say Prabhu. Most people will say Kalakanta Prabhu, but yeah, I mean, most people don't call me Prabhupada Priya Prabhu. They just say Prabhupada Priya, which is fine, which is cool. I mean, I like it. It's more friendly. It's more intimate, I guess you could say. Like when you have a close relationship. Or a lot of us have nicknames. They actually call me, like a lot of them, because my initials are PPDD. So they have my nickname here for some of them is P2D2. It's like R2D2. So I'm P2D2.
Androidish.
P2D2 Prabhu. No.
Great.
So yeah, so we just try to just like have this family mood that, we're just all friends and we all just love each other and we joke around a lot and we have fun together. We play a lot and yeah. It's nice. That's another thing that's really sweet about Krishna House is that, not only do we do our sadhana together and we do our service together, but we also just like have fun together. And that's actually it's not just something that happens, but it's actually like an essential part of the Krishna House program is that, for example, on the weekends, we'll all, go to the beach and just go for a swim, go boogie boarding and play volleyball, or we'll go to a field or play soccer, or we'll go to the springs and go tubing, or we'll just do fun things together. So yeah, and that's really nice for creating the bonds, creating loving bonds between devotees, and young people really appreciate that because especially young Westerners, they need to do these kinds of things. And Krishna also, he says that we need to be regulated in and moderate in work and eating, sleeping, recreation, and work. So recreation has to be there in moderation. And so we try to have this balanced lifestyle where we work hard, we chant nicely, and we go and have fun too. It's like it's all a part of a balanced spiritual life. And everybody enjoys those. Me too, just as much. And it's a really new thing. It was actually a new concept for me, because when I was a new devotee, to do something like go to the beach, it's like total Maya. Or to go, what to speak of, go play soccer. So yeah, it's really nice. It's refreshing. And my experience is that these things are not Maya at all, but they actually are very supportive of Krishna consciousness. And that, we can be very, just like we can be Krishna conscious in kirtan at the temple, we can also be Krishna conscious, playing sports, and, we go and do kirtan at the beach, or do harinam up and down the beach, or, when we're playing volleyball, it's like every time someone hits the ball, they'll say like Hare, and then Krishna, Hare, Krishna. So just find ways to integrate Krishna consciousness in a fun, playful way, and then everyone also stays physically fit and happy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes.
Question from.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question about your book. Where is it available? And curious about it.
Oh, it's a small book. Yeah. I printed a lot of copies, but they all got stuck in Mayapur, and then the pandemic, like the house where they are, nobody's there. And yeah, and I'm here. But it's also, you can get it on Amazon. So it's called Rising Above It All, Higher Consciousness, Happier Life. And you can, I used my legal name as the author name, which is Wendy Da Silveira. So I think there's another book by the same title that's Rising Above It All, but not, you have to check for the subtitle, Higher Consciousness, Happier Life. And then you'll find it. It's just a small book. It's very cheap. I think it's just a couple of dollars or something. You can get the ebook.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a sweet little book. It's nice.
I have a question from Jenya. How can your program be used or trained at other locations, and is it a requirement to wear a sari?
Okay, I'll answer the second question first because it's really easy. So no, it's not a requirement to wear a sari, unless you're doing the arti, like offering arti, mangal arti, or offering a guru puja or tulsi puja. So then we require, the men to wear dhoti kurta and women to wear sari. But just to come to the program, we basically we don't, as long as, we don't, in one sense we don't have it. You can wear Western clothes, normal clothes, or wear, whatever, basically, as long as the body is adequately, covered. There's no dress code. So yeah. The boys come to Mangalarti with shorts and a t-shirt, and it's okay. And the girls can wear, pants and a top, and it's okay. What was the first question again?
How can your program be used or trained in other locations?
How can they be used in other locations? Yeah, I think this can be used anywhere. It's just a matter of having a space. Like a really important part of it is the ashram. Just like I was saying, like having a space for people to stay, because it's a challenge for people to live outside and have to work outside and then try to be Krishna conscious in the beginning. Because like I was saying, it's such a different lifestyle that it really requires, for Westerners, like Indians can do that because they're already kind of like living a semi-Krishna conscious lifestyle in terms of like, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication. It's kind of like for people that are raised in, religious Indian families, that's just a part of life. But for Westerners, the average Westerner, average young American, it's the total opposite. So as long as they're outside, it can be very difficult to give up certain behaviors and activities that are harmful to Krishna consciousness. And so it's very important to have that immersion experience, at least for a few months, to just like move away from all of that and just put yourself in a totally Krishna conscious environment with devotees, and where you're having only prasadam and, Krishna conscious activities. So the first thing is, if possible, to create a space where people can stay and live with devotees and have that morning program and have the regulation, and to have guidance, to have someone there to teach them, to sit down and read the Bhagavad Gita together and discuss it, for example, to chant japa together, to do kirtan together, to cook together for Krishna, to take prasadam together. It's really important in the beginning to have these like, you know, association, lots of association, and do things together. Yeah, and I think that can be done anywhere. It's not that complicated, you know. I mean, Lord Chaitanya gave us such a simple process: just chant Hare Krishna, and chant, dance, and take prasadam. And then, you know, we read the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we discuss it. That's also like really nice. It's very blissful. Like here, we have a Bhagavad Gita reading every evening where everybody comes, and we started from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, and we read every word, like the preface, the introduction, we read the Sanskrit verse, the translation, and the purport, every word of the purport. And so then after each purport, we'll just like I'll say a few words, and then anybody else who wants to comment or ask a question, we do have a discussion, and then so one person reads everybody says the Sanskrit together, and then we just go around, and one person reads verse and purport, then we discuss, then the next person reads a verse and purport, and we discuss, next person reads a verse and purport, and we discuss. And that way that's like one of the highlights of the day, you know. Everybody loves that, and we do it from 6 to 7 in the evening. 7 o'clock comes and everyone's just like pretending that they didn't notice that it's 7 o'clock. Like today it was like 7:20 and it was still going on, and I was like, all right guys, I have to go because I have to give a class for Houston. And they're like, no. So it's always like hard to end the class because it's so sweet, you know. And because it's like a family, because we have this loving family mood, that everybody feels very open, you know, to express any doubts, any concerns, any questions that they may have, or to share their thoughts on the topic. So it becomes very rich, very personal, and very relevant for everybody, you know. So yeah, it's really good. As soon as you have the right, it's all about the mood, really. That's why when we talk about Krishna house, it's like when people come here, what really gets them is the mood. You know, in one sense, it's not that we're doing anything hugely different from any other temple, but it's a certain mood that creates. It's just this very loving, very intimate, um, open mood where people are encouraged. Everyone's encouraged to be themselves. You know, it's not like we're not trying to make, you know, like little like clones of, you know, like this is what the ideal devotee is and everyone has to just sort of be a clone of that or something. We're trying to get people to find themselves within Krishna consciousness and to be themselves. And we've had devotees come from you know, different temples, or you know, like kids, young people who were born in devotee families and maybe grew up in Mayapur or something, and they've come here and they've felt like, wow, this is the first time that I've actually felt like I could really be myself without being, you know, forced to be like this and do like this, and sort of like suppress their real nature in order to be what other people want them to be, or what they think other people expect them to be. So that's an important part of it. And Kalakantru was very good. He's our chaplain now. He was a temple president for many years, and now he's not here all the time, but he's a chaplain. So he talks to everybody once a week. He has a little half an hour meeting. He's been doing it over the phone since the pandemic, but he checks in with everybody, and you know. That's really important. Even with me, I have a half an hour phone call with Kalakantru once a week, and he just asks, you know, how was your week? What's on your mind? Is there anything I can help you with? Or how's this going? You know, last time we talked, you said you were going to be doing this. How's that going? Did it work out? Or, you know, how's your relationship with this person? Has it improved? And so he's always just like trying to help us. And that's very important, and to try to guide us according to what our interests are. And yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Someone can be going to college. Can someone also be working outside but staying in Krishna house? What is the difference? I mean, is there any difference?
Yeah, no, someone can be working outside and staying in Krishna house. The only thing is that they need to go to the morning program, and so we have different arrangements for different people here. So someone who just wants to be a full-time devotee, so then they do 4 hours of service. So everyone does morning program. That's like all across the board. Everyone has to do that. And then those who just want to be a full-time devotee, so they do their 4 hours of service, and then they stay here. You know, they stay here for free. Basically, they do 4 hours of service in exchange for room and board, basically. Then those who are full-time students, they don't have time to do 4 hours of service a day because their day is just studying and doing classes. So then they will pay rent. So they pay rent, and they do the morning program, and they're part of our community. And whenever they have free time, then they can offer voluntary service. Like maybe they want to help cook on the weekends, or do something. And then if there are devotees who have jobs outside, then it's the same thing. They're working outside, then they'll pay rent, but they still need to go to the morning program. But generally, devotees who are working, we don't, some devotees have had part-time jobs, but generally we don't have devotees here who have full-time jobs and live in the ashram. Somehow, yeah, we just haven't had that so much. There was one example of that, but not so much. Because when they get into the mode of wanting to do a full-time job, it's kind of like uh, they're already kind of moving into a different mode of life. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a little bit different than ashram life.
And if someone comes in, they're chanting 8 rounds at first, and then they may come to the level of 16 rounds, and some of them come to the point of initiation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So when devotees come in, we're very open to anyone joining. Of course, anyone who lives in the ashram, they need to follow the 4 regulative principles, and they need to chant a minimum of 8 rounds. Okay, just to live in the ashram. But having said that, when people first come, it's not that they're chanting 8 rounds already. If somebody really wants to live in the association of devotees and give Krishna consciousness a try, and they want to give the ashram experience, they want to have the ashram experience, then we'll welcome them in. And then as a part of the morning program, they're gradually going to come up to 8 rounds because we have the japa period there. So they have to attend the japa period, then they're going to chant because it's part of the program. So then we don't really worry about that too much. And we know that once they start chanting and following the process, they're going to chant more. So pretty much all the devotees, although we only require 8 rounds, they all end up chanting 16 rounds by their own choice, by their own will, without us having to encourage them even. They just do it because they understand that that's what you do. And then, and they understand through classes, through Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and discussions, and seeing initiated devotees and second initiated devotees chanting Gayatri and things, that there are these, we don't emphasize them a lot, but they see that there are, levels to Krishna consciousness. There are like, stages of achievement within bhakti that, of course, obviously, when we're studying Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the topic of spiritual master is like a recurring theme because it's so essential in spiritual life. But of course, in the beginning, we encourage everyone to develop their relationship with Srila Prabhupada, who's the founder Acharya. And some of them, they may want to, kind of prematurely try to choose a spiritual master, after just being here for a month or something. And then we try to tell them, like, just wait, don't try to make the decision yet. First, just, keep practicing and cultivate your relationship with Srila Prabhupada, make it very deep, very steady, and fixed. And then when the time is right, then you can, make the decision. So yeah, so we don't. Obviously, we try to give people not that we try to, we do. We give people like totally open choice of who their Diksha Guru will be. And now we have like 25 devotees here, and we probably have, I think, about 15 different, we have devotees who are disciples of like 15 different gurus. So there's quite a range of gurus. And we feel that that's very healthy, because it shows that, that there is that icha, that free choice. People allowed their choice, whether they want to stay here, what they want to do with their lives, who they want to have as their guru. And even though Kalakanta Prabhu is a Diksha Guru, and he's, a mentor for everybody, but he's, if a devotee is attracted to taking initiation from another guru, then he'll totally encourage them in that direction, But if somebody approaches him, then he'll say, okay, if you want me to serve you in that capacity, then I'm happy to serve you. He sees it like that. So yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, it kind of it helps to have this, it supports this principle of unity and diversity, that everybody's an individual, and everybody has their unique mood and relationship with Krishna. And so naturally they're going to be attracted to a guru who has a similar mood, a similar way of serving Krishna. And so we want to encourage that. Like I said, we want people to be themselves and to just be happy and comfortable and be able to engage their own individual natures in Krishna's service in the best possible way. And so we encourage them to take the guidance of a guru who they feel can help them to progress in that direction. So yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I have another question. What is the rate of the people who sign up and then they may leave midway? And then of all the students or the residents who come through, how many of them, what percentage end up becoming devotees?
Well, I don't have statistics on that, if you want numbers. But since I've been here, most of them have like become devotees, like actually, stayed on and, either become initiated or are aspiring for initiation. Obviously, we've had a few who like they come and they try the process for some time, and then they decide that they'd rather do something else, and that's fine. Even with them, we give them a warm farewell, and we always keep them as part of the community. Like we have a WhatsApp group, and anybody who's ever lived at Krishna House is on the WhatsApp group, or at least they have the option to. They can, of course, leave if they want to, but they're still like considered part of it's called Krishna House community. And, people share different, links and points and quotes and jokes and all kinds of things on there. And we get things from devotees who have, left Krishna House years and years ago that nobody even knows, but somehow they still feel that, connection to Krishna House. So it's nice. And I know that Kalakanta Prabhu, he, once a year, he does a whole cross-country tour where he goes he drives all the way out to the West Coast, and he stops and visits different Krishna House alumni who are, now working, married, and, or doing services in different temples. So we try to stay in touch with them. But even the ones that, they come and they kind of stay for a while and then they leave and sort of go back into material life. But, they come back from time to time. and we see that their lives are so much better. You know, they're so much more. They're more organized. They're more successful. You know, because there's a lot of people in the world that are just they've really had very messed up childhoods. You know, they're victims of abuse, and they have all these traumas. They're depressed and on medication, and you know they come to us for shelter. And so, you know, we invite them in, we try to help them, as Krishna consciousness is the panacea for all problems. And so they take to it for some time, and they actually, like, you know, come up to a higher level of existence where, you know, they're actually happy, and they become functional and organized and capable of doing things in a much better way than they would have if they hadn't come to us. So they definitely get the benefit. You know, they get the spiritual benefit, because whatever they do in the short time that they're with us is to their eternal credit. It's in their eternal bank account. And later in life, if they decide to pick up, you know, the serious practice of bhakti again, then they'll pick up wherever they left off. But in the meantime, even their material life will be better, you know, because they've learned some higher values, and they've had an experience which left a lasting impression on them, which will always help them. So it's all good, you know. And it's almost never, you know, I haven't seen that someone has left Krishna house on a bad note and felt really bad and has, you know, spoken ill of their experience here. So everybody feels really grateful that they had the opportunity to be here and to learn something about Krishna and to experience an alternative lifestyle, a spiritual lifestyle. And it's all good.